Even though Murderbot is a ComSec unit, is not real, has got some harvested sort of organic grown human parts, is not human, but managed to hack his government system early on in this. Like, that's how we start the series. It's no longer under control by anyone else and is able to do its own thing. And it chooses to, above anything else, watch what's called sort of dramatized serials, which is kind of like soap operas. And Patrick said that Murderbot was a character that he related to the most out of any character. I love the way that Murderbot will talk about learning to try to be human, understanding emotions almost for the first time, using different media to learn about human behavior. What was it like for you, really peeling back sort of human behavior to understand and to create Murderbot?
Well, I've always liked writing alien characters. I kind of didn't know how alien Murderbot was until after the book came out and I was starting to see reactions to it. And it really surprised me, I think, how good a job people thought I did. Some of that is just my own brain stuff, things that, you know, the way I grew up and trying to figure out how my brain worked and operate with other people and that kind of thing myself. So a lot of it just comes from a lot of Murderbot's ability to interact with others, and the way it does that is just kind of me extrapolating a little bit on my own experience as a kid, which was really interesting to find out how different people thought that was. I've just kind of always liked trying to kind of step outside myself a little bit and create characters that weren't human. One of my previous fantasy series, the Books of the Raxura, is all non-human characters. So yeah, it's just been a really interesting journey seeing how many people related to Murderbot that way.
It was quite interesting because I think when you look at sort of the research of being on the spectrum, I think that when you kind of go, oh, right, we've been conditioned to kind of feel what normal is this entire time, but there actually really is no normal. There's a spectrum of how you can kind of associate, relate, tap into, understand. And for some people, it's incredibly easy. Social cues are normal, understanding emotions really quite effortless. And other people really have to be taught. And I think for Murderbot, it's learning what good and bad looks like and is. And it's doing that, forming an alliance or, you know, understanding what respect is for the first time. And being respected and feeling equal.
Well, and using the media that it's watching, you know, flawed as that media is, it still has a basic idea of what's good and what's bad. And kind of learning from that, not necessarily a lot about emotion and human behavior, but just sort of putting its feelings, using it to put its feelings in context with how these characters are relating to each other. I think I've seen some discussion where people think that Murderbot was not sentient until it hacked the governor module. Well, it had to be sentient to hack the governor module.
Yeah.
And so all the sec units are self-aware and sentient. They're people, but they're enslaved people. And it's way more, if they weren't sentient, that would make the situation, I guess, more palatable. But the truth is they are, and this is really horrible.
Oh, yeah. And that's something that you really kind of wanted to address, and using almost Mensa as the mentor that's recognizing this and being like, wait a second, like, you're making choices, you're doing things, you're finding joy. This is a huge issue.
Yeah. And it's like, I think that I'm trying to remember exactly what happened because it's been so long since I wrote All Systems Red. But they always kind of knew, but I think it's the way people will kind of deal with a horrific situation that you can't do anything about by kind of pretending to yourself, well, it's not that bad.
Yes.
And when and that's one of the reasons why they kind of don't want to have a sec unit. They know it's wrong. It's a wrong thing. They're forced to have a sec unit, you know, as part of their agreement with the company. And they all have to kind of confront the fact that, yeah, this is a person and it's got a thing in its head. Well, they think it's got a thing in its head that makes it obey us. And that's so fundamentally wrong on so many levels. It's mind-blowing.
And it's interesting to see how some of them will default into naivety or denial, where it's like, oh, no, it's not that bad, or they can't feel, or they don't know, or they can't, you know, like it's this assumption that's placed upon it to be able to cope a little bit better with it.
Yeah, you see that all through the different stories.